Hey, this is John Cena, and you are watching this WWE Fan 13.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys about the top 5 worst pro wrestling figures ever made in history. Now, before I get started, I just want to let you guys know a few things. Number one, this is just my opinion on the figures that I think are probably the worst. I spent hours looking over some figures, reading forums of people saying which ones are the worst, and I made my own list of the top 5 that I think are the worst. Second thing to take into account, I understand we have not always had the technology we have now for figures, like how we have the facial scans and we have all the really fancy stuff. So there are a few figures on this list that were made before we had all this high-tech stuff, but the way I took this into account is compared to the other figures in that line during that same time, some of these are just really bad compared to the ones that were made at the exact same time in the exact same series, and that I think WWE or TNA just dropped the ball. Number 3, I'm not going to be taking into account some of the weird figures that they made over time, like how they did the zombie line. I know back during like WWF, they did some like weird ones, like with Owen Hart and like Terminator ones. There was one I saw that was like Chris Jericho as a lion tamer, and it came with like a literal lion. I'm not taking into account any of those, because if that were the case, they would all be on this list. I'm taking into account figures that were meant, just normal figures that were meant for kids to play with and be the wrestler that they bought. Just those kind of figures. None of the special edition zombies, none of those weird ones. So yeah, and I think that's all I gotta go over with you guys before I get this video started. So with that being said, here's my top 5. Okay guys, so also before we get started, I will pop photos of all the figures up here so you guys can see exactly what they look like, and I can give you guys a detail why I made each one, you know, in the order. So coming in at number 5, a lot of people might disagree with me on this. It's okay, but I'm gonna have to say the LJN Andre the Giant from Series 1. Now, I have my reasonings for saying this. I understand back then they did not have all this technology, and Presley, do not come for me because I know how you are about your classic figures. I have a reason. So, my reasoning, I understand they did not have the technology we have now. I understand they didn't have the facial scanning. They didn't have all the great technology we have. But, I'm going to pop the picture up of the Andre the Giant right here. You see it, right? Okay. Take a look at this figure. Now, I'm going to pop up some other ones from the same series. Same year released, same time, Series 1. And I want you guys to see the difference. So first, we're going to pop up Big John Studd. Okay, you see it, right? Then we're going to pop up the Iron Sheik. And then now we're going to pop up Roddy Piper. And lastly, we're going to pop up Hulk Hogan. Now, here's all of them together, all the ones I listed. Take a good look at them. Make sure you guys get it in your brain. Okay, you guys got them? Here's Andre the Giant again. Please tell me how that was made during the same time. It just makes no sense to me how this Andre the Giant was made with all those others. I don't know what LJN was doing with Andre the Giant, but he got screwed out of his first figure. It looks like a big hot mess in my opinion. Now, the big things that I really don't like about it, he looks like he has a really bad wig on. Compared to the other hairstyles I've seen on some of the other wrestlers, I think they could have done a lot better with Andre the Giants. I really do think they could have done better. It just looks really, really bad. The body is really awkward compared to the other poses the other wrestlers got. I feel like Andre the Giant it was not good. And from the things that I read, a lot of the other wrestlers, you were able to stand them up. Andre the Giant, most of the time, the kids could never stand them up. From what I read, from kids who grew up with those figures, it was just a lot of like instability. Like, it was not able to stand up. It was just not a good designed figure overall. And overall, the body is awkward. I understand they weren't really known to have proportions yet. They didn't really know how to do the proportions. But I feel like the proportions on the other wrestlers are a lot better than it was on this Andre the Giant. And that is why I had to put him at number 5. I know, like I said, he's an LJN. It's not going to be the most detailed. But compared to the other ones released in the exact same series, in the exact same time, they just really dropped the ball with his. Coming in at number 4 is from the early time of Mattel. It is the Series 2 battle packs that had John Morrison and The Miz. Now, from this battle pack, we are not going to be focusing on The Miz. We're going to be focusing on John Morrison. Now, I understand this was barely the time when they were really getting the advanced like facial scanning and all that. But compared to Series 1, I'm going to pop up some photos. So again, here's the John Morrison. Get a good look at it. Look at his face. Honestly, it looks like he was made out of Play-Doh. That's what I think about when I see it. It was just a horrible face scan. They did not... It looks like they did one face scan and said, that would be good, and popped it on the figure. Now, I want you to guys see some figures from Series 1. Don't get me wrong. They're not like what we have today, but compared to this John Morrison, let me show you. So here they are. Take a look at them. I want you guys to see that you would think from Series 1 to Series 2 that they would get better. But no, in my opinion, from Series 1 to Series 2, it got worse. But then, the thing is, from the same Series 2, look at these figures. They are good. They are decent for the time that they were being made. What did Mattel do to John Morrison's face? Even The Miz wasn't that bad. The Miz wasn't great. It looks like maybe they did 2 scans and they popped out the better one. But like, John Morrison, come on. What did they do to his face? I don't understand it. He looks like a generic wrestler. Like, it just looks so bad. If it was not for his tights and like his, gear, I would have no idea who he was. Coming in at number 3, it is our only non-WWE related one. It is the TNA Genesis Series 1 Samoa Joe. Do you see it? Do you see the problem? Or is it just me? Do you guys see the problem? I think you guys can see it, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not skinny myself. Not whatsoever. But that is not Samoa Joe. Especially in the TNA days, he was a little chunkier back then. That's what I mean. Samoa Joe is one of my favorites. You guys know I love Samoa Joe. But what is this? I don't understand. So I did some research into this figure. This figure was sold at a lot of like lower... like less expensive stores like Big Lots, dollars. I don't know if I ever hit dollar store, but think about more like Big Lots. But the thing is, I don't think that makes up for the reason why that this figure was so bad. Because if you guys remember, WWE did those Unmatched Furies, and those were also sold at Big Lots. And I know that because I have about 20 up here, and I always went to Big Lots to get them. And those figures, even though they don't move and they're stiff and they're whatever, they were very well detailed. So the fact that it looks like this, it just bothers me. Especially being a big Samoa Joe fan that I am, it bothers me. Now, I did some more research into this figure. I looked up what people said, and I noticed, why is the head like that? Why did they do the head like that? Why didn't they have the head match the body? Why is the head so big? Now, the reason I read that they made these figures was because they wanted to have a cheaper version for people who were not able to afford the deluxe versions to be able to buy. So, let me tell you what they did. And I'm not lying to you guys. They literally took the head of the deluxe figures and they put it on that body. So the figures that they were selling in Walmart, Toys R Us, Target, those deluxe cool figures that were probably like $20 at the time, maybe sometimes too expensive for some families, they popped the head off of the Samoa Joe and put it on that body. That's literally what they did. And I'm just sitting here like, it looks horrible. Like, let's just go on to the next one. And actually, before we go into the next one, I want to mention this figure is so bad that it only sells for $5 now. Most figures go up in price. This one, $5. Enough said. So coming in at number 2, it is the WWE Classic Superstars 22 Eddie Guerrero. You guys know, I'm a big Eddie Guerrero fan. Born and raised El Paso, Eddie Guerrero, everywhere here. Big fan of him. Have almost all of his classic figures. Missing a few. Have a lot of his figures. Almost all of them. Big Eddie Guerrero fan. Whole reason I started watching wrestling. You guys know this. This figure is a mess. I have never liked this figure. This is the one figure I refuse to buy of his. I will never buy it. I have never liked it. I have never liked this series of ones. But for some reason, out of all the ones created like this, Eddie Guerrero's has bothered me the most. Some of the other ones had more detail. They were a little better. Not much better, but they were still a little better. Now, let me tell you guys what annoys me about this figure. Number 1, his face. Between me and you, He looks constipated. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say. He looks weird. I love Eddie. This is not doing it. Number 2. Look at his stomach area. You guys can see it right here. Look at his stomach. His abs are not there. And he has no belly button. He looks just like a flat piece of Play-Doh. I don't know why I keep saying Play-Doh, but that's what comes to my head when I see this stuff. Maybe it's I'm an aunt of many people, so I see Play-Doh 24/7, but it looks like Play-Doh. Like, his stomach just looks weird. I have never liked it. I always found it weird, and I've seen it in the store many times, and I always passed on it. Never bought it, never will. Compared to, you know, his other classic figures or the other figures he had during that time, those were so good. There was so many good ones. This one is just not doing it. Also, his pose, the way they posed him, I know they're trying to do the little shimmy thing. That pose is just not it. They could have done it so much better. They have done it better in figures in the future. Example, his Unmatched Fury that I have up here is so much better. I don't know what they were doing here, but it's not good. And I understand, for my final point, he looks too stiff. Now, I understand that's the point. He's not supposed to move. But the other figures that they made in this line, they did not look as stiff as he does here. Here, he looks like he's like frozen. Like, he literally, like Frozone from freaking Incredibles, literally like shot him and he got like frozen there like that. It just looks so weird and I'm just not a fan of it at all. Coming in at number 1. This one will always be my number 1. I think this figure was absolutely ridiculous and never need to be made. It was the WWE Jakks Pacific Classic Superstars Toy Fair exclusive 2007 Roddy Piper. You guys see the problem with this? You guys might be thinking maybe it's black and white. No. This figure is based off a real life match that happened a long time ago. And I understand times have changed. I understand back then it was still controversial, but things were able to be pushed to a different line. So this was based off when Piper faced off against Bad News Brown at Wrestlemania 6. That's what this is based off. During that WrestleMania, he painted himself half blackface. And if you guys do not know what blackface is, a long time ago, before black people were allowed, here's a little history lesson. Before black people were allowed to be able to, you know, be in shows and be in Broadway and TV, a lot of white people would paint their skin brown to portray an African-American character. Now, as time has gone on, we have realized that that's not good. That's, no. But, you know, during this time of WrestleMania, I believe at that time it was already known that that was not a good thing. But WWE went on with it anyways. And that's one of the very many things that WWE has done in its history that I do not agree with. And I think they definitely should not have done that. But, you know, that put aside, why in 2007, hear what I'm saying, 2007, why did they make this figure? Jakks, what were you thinking making this? You know, you could make excuses. They wouldn't be very good ones for why it happened at WrestleMania. Whatever. They would be not good excuses, but there could be some excuses made. But for over, I don't know how much years later, 2007, why did you make this figure? That WrestleMania match already caused so much controversy. Why do you think it was a good idea to make this? I think it was absolutely atrocious. And it never needed to be made. Like, this is one figure, even if it was gifted to me, honestly, I don't even think I would sell it. I think I would destroy it. I'm not going to lie to you. This figure is just all kinds of wrong. And it's a good thing they only made 100 because eventually it's just going to fade off into non-existence and people will forget about it. So yeah, guys, those are my top 5 figures that I think were just pretty bad. You know, obviously, of course, the Roddy Piper had to be on this list. It was just so bad morally and everything. I don't know why they ever made that, but I don't know. And, you know, of course, I know people might disagree with me with the Andre the Giant, but as I showed you guys, compared to the other LJNs that came out in that same Series 1, Andre the Giant, honestly, it looked like a generic wrestler that was not Andre. I'm sure for the time, maybe it was cool, but just compared to the Hogan, Iron Sheik, and all those other ones, they definitely dropped the ball with Andre the Giant's figure. And I stand by that statement. So with that being said, guys, make sure you guys give a thumbs up to the video. Comment down below which figure you think is the worst in history. It does not have to be from my list. It can be from any figure that you have seen. Maybe you have it. Which one do you think is the absolute worst figure in pro wrestling history, WWE history, TNA, whatever figure you guys want to tell me about. Subscribe if you guys are new. And don't forget, next week I will be going live for Wrestlemania 39 nights 1 and 2. So click the links down below so you guys can go and click notify so you guys are notified when I go live, and you guys are not going to want to miss it. And lastly, if you guys have not already followed me on TikTok, head over to TikTok at Miss WWE Fan 13. I upload daily. Actually, right before this video goes up, there will be a new TikTok up there, and it will be a figure hunt. So you guys are not going to want to miss that. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Are you a supporter of the Marine Corps?
Absolutely.
Great, because a former decorated member of the United States Marine Corps needs your support.
And his name is